Hi folks, welcome to the weekly Fortify prescription video. We're going to be talking about modulating intensity around your lifestyle and what's going on for you week to week, day to day. So if we think about very basically, every individual is a cup. Bear with me on this. Every individual is a cup, and that cup has a certain limit that it can be full of with stress. So every time there's a stressor in your life, it fills the cup up a little bit, depending on how big that stressor is. So if you think about something really horrifically stressful, like dealing with, a life or death situation, in that moment, your stress cup is completely full. At that moment, you can't really think or do anything else. That's why a lot of soldiers report that they actually shit themselves when they go into combat for the first time. Their body literally evacuates the bowels, so the body can't do anything else other than deal with that stressor. Now, on a day-to-day basis, we in the modern world deal with varying levels of stressor. Very, very rarely do we go to that true fight or flight place in front of us. But every time we get cut up in traffic, every time we have a stressful meeting at work, every time we realise that we're in our overdraft again, every time our kids have a massive meltdown in the middle of the supermarket, or we're running late for a meeting, or all of these seemingly small things that in the moment trigger a stress response from us. And all of those things fill up your stress cup on a day-to-day basis. Outside of that, we're also trying to exercise, we're trying to get good food, and if our food isn't optimal, that's going to be another stressor. If we drink alcohol, that's going to be... So you can see that day to day now, humans are dealing with huge, varying loads of stressors. Now, how empty our cup is of stress dictates how much adaptation currency we've got. Now, how much can you adapt to the training that you're doing in the gym is your currency. Now, someone who's let's talk about an elite athlete who is paid to do what they do, and they're a full-time, like a football player. They literally, their whole life is geared around being good at football. They don't have to worry about anything else. They're paid a ridiculous amount of money, and so they don't have any financial stressors. Their job is to wake up in the morning, go to work, probably get fed a really high quality breakfast, and then go and play football for a couple of hours, maybe do some fitness, sit down, have a meal that's paid for and is again probably quite high quality, that they don't have to worry about doing the washing up or any of that shit. And then they probably play football or do some more fitness in the afternoon, have some rehab, do some prehab, whatever it is, team meetings, and then they'll go home. And that person, literally their whole life is revolving around being physically capable of expressing a skill and doing it well. Now let's look at the average person working a 40+ hour week with a family, trying to simply get a little bit fitter or a little bit stronger or lose a little bit of body fat, or just trying to be healthier. Okay, that person probably gets up between 5 and 7 in the morning. That person then probably has, depending on what role they play in the family, has to get kids ready for work, or just has to scoot some breakfast down their throat and get to work. That person is then probably at work for 8 to 12 hours a day, depending on the job they're doing, and is most likely, for most people, sedentary. Inside, not getting any sunlight, not moving much, probably dealing with varying amounts of stress. Most likely surrounded by people who aren't particularly happy or motivated at work, or are dealing with huge amounts of stress at work. That person then goes home, and that person is then going to have to probably stop at the shops on the way home, or if they're super organised, they'll have their meals prepared, but that means taking time out of their weekend to prepare those meals. Maybe you feel so stressed that you go home and you crack open a beer or a bottle of wine. You might have kids to put to bed. You might have kids to pick up from clubs. Your partner has probably either been at their own job or has been at home all day with the kids and is maybe tired and stressed. Somewhere in amongst that, you're expected to look after yourself, keep healthy and fit. And that means eating really good quality food. That means getting 8 hours sleep a night. That means going to the gym a few times a week or going out and doing some form of exercise. Now, a lot of people do that, and you guys watching this are doing that or are trying to do that. And what you've got to take into account is what is the rest of your life like, and that dictates how hard you need to go in the gym. That dictates how hard you need to hit these Fortify sessions. Now, I try and give guidance, but every one of you has control over how you approach that session. So if we've got 4x10 back squats and I say, add a little bit of load from last week, that's the sort of comment I'll put quite regularly. Add some load from last week if it went well and you feel good. Now, if you've had a super stressful day at work and you haven't eaten all day because you've been so busy at work, but you've managed to get yourself to the gym, A, kudos to you for fucking putting the effort in. B, be careful what you do in the gym because it could put you in a hole. So if that's your day you've had, then you're actually probably going to go lighter than the week before. That's really, really important to understand, that you can vary it. Don't be a robot and just follow the program, as I say, because it's a generic program. If you want individual programming, then it's a lot more expensive and it requires a lot more effort and a lot more consistency to get the money's worth. Now, if you're on this program, you need to be using your brain and actually thinking about, what do I need in this moment? So if you've had a really good day at work, you enjoyed your day, you weren't stressed, you managed to get a bit of sunlight, you ate good food, you feel fueled and you're motivated, and you get in the gym and it says add a little bit of load, then yeah, you can probably add a little bit of load. But if you have had a stressful day and you're struggling with a knee injury, don't add a bit of load to that back squat. Maybe you skip the back squat and do something else. So it's all about having that adaptability. And what you've got to accept is we aren't elite athletes. You and me are not elite athletes. Now that hurts me saying that, because I fucking always wanted to be an elite athlete, and I spent most of my life living like I could train like an elite athlete, and it bit me in the arse. I'll tell you that for free. It bit me in the arse. And what I have slowly learned the very hard way is that I can't train like an elite athlete and I need to adapt things. So when I was 20 to 25, I was a police officer working shifts. I loved my job in the most part, but it was fucking stressful. Particularly the shift pattern had a fucking heavy toll on me, and also the food I was eating was not ideal. Plenty of takeaways and like junk food at work, sleep patterns completely disrupted, all of that. Now, I pushed it hard in the gym. I pushed it really hard in the gym at that time. And when I look back at how I looked and how I felt, it was probably the worst in my life. But I was 20 to 25 and I thought I was getting away with it. But actually, I had fucking the flu. I'd be in bed with the flu at least 3 times a year. And that was on top of the colds and little bugs that I would just like graft through because I couldn't constantly take sick leave. I was burning the candle at both ends. I had an injury every 6 weeks. Now, you might not be in that place, but it's just a word of warning. This has an impact, and that will have had an impact on now how much I can sustain. And now I feel like I'm a little bit brittle because of that. I have to be really careful with how I train around tiredness and fatigue and stress. So it's just I'm giving you free rein to make sure that you look after yourself with this programming. If you have a really stressful week and you've had a busy weekend and maybe you drank at the weekend and you were hungover all Sunday And then you get up and you're fucking hanging on Monday morning as well. And then you go to work, have a tough day, you don't eat right, you get to the gym and you're feeling rough. Fair enough, if you want to train, but let's make it a very moderate session. Have in your mind all the different levels of training that you can do. Is it going to be really easy? Are you going to go in and feel like you've done no work? Is it going to be moderate? You're going to go in and you feel like you've done a decent amount of work, but you're not destroyed? Are you going to go in and do a hard session where you feel like you push yourself pretty hard, but because it's the Fortify prescription, you're not going all out, you're not leaving it all on the floor, because that leaves you with nothing to play with the next day. So you've got those different levels, and it's a sliding scale on everything. If you look after yourself in those moments where you are tired and your stress cup is full, then you will make more progress long term. That consistency will be much easier to sustain. But if you keep digging your hole deeper and deeper, one day you won't be able to get out of it. Now, one thing to qualify with, just before I go, is the stress cup. It doesn't have to feel like stress. So you know that feeling when you get stressed and you're frustrated or like, in a rush, that feels like stress. But like not sleeping right, that's a stressor. That fills your stress cup up. Eating shit food, that's a stressor. It fills your stress cup up. But they don't feel like stressors. They don't feel like stress as we know that word to be. But training is a stressor, but it doesn't feel like stress. Training feels pretty good to me and to a lot of people. So just being aware of that stress cup and what are stresses and what aren't stresses is really important. If you really want to go deep into the subject, read a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky. It's pretty deep, but it's very, very important for understanding how our bodies deal with stress and how our modern lives, really, we're not designed for the lives we're leading. And it's just something to bear in mind because it really gives you a different perspective on training and all the other things going on in your life and how to manage them to get the best out of, to get the best progress towards your goals, whatever that is. So I hope you've enjoyed listening. I'm sorry I'm not telling you that you can do it all. You can't. Much as it hurts me to admit that, and it does hurt me. The more you prioritize your health, the better results you will get in the gym for the normal person. If you're an elite athlete watching this, ignore everything I've said. Fucking go to bed early and train hard. If you've got any feedback at all or questions or anything like that about the program, please do drop me a line. Lots of love. Cheers.